Hello and welcome to another C3 Stingray video. I'm not sure what episode we're on, but this is all part of this 1979 Corvette I bought for $1,500, and we're piecing this all together to hopefully have it on the road by April 8th. I know that's starting to look a little grim now, but we're still shooting for that goal. In the last two episodes, we took the front suspension off, we took the front suspension apart, and in this episode, we're going to put the pieces back together, put the bushings in and all that stuff, and then we're going to put it all back on the car. We're finishing that front end today. It's over. We're done. So, I hope you enjoy this video. It's probably going to be a really long one. Let's just get into the video. Oh yeah, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Hit that like button, that notification button, and let's go. Well, we're going to start it off by doing a little self-promotion here. I'm using this complete rebuild kit with the bushings and everything. It is actually for sale on my website at c3stingray.com, along with this hardware kit that I have with the bolts for the upper control arm, lower control arm, the end caps on those go over the bushings. It's all available at c3stingray.com. First off, we're going to do this upper control arm, and I tend to grease everything up a little bit just to make everything go together a little easier. Now I'm getting the bushings in place, and these are two 36mm sockets I have that work perfectly for pushing these bushings in, because it hits right on the edge of that metal piece. And I'm putting it in the press here with this piece of pipe that I cut out to try to give a little more support so it doesn't bend. If you watch my last video, you need to watch that, and there's a lot more talk about that pipe and different things I use to make sure I don't bend up these control arms. And we're going to put, once I get these in, we're going to put the end pieces on with the caps, but you don't want to tighten these down. You just want to snug them up. You don't want to put any torque on these until it's on the car and the engine and everything's in the car and all the weight's down on the car and the wheels are on the ground. And we're going to put in this ball joint, and to get this ball joint in, you know, it was pop riveted in before, but now we're putting bolts in. The bolts are a little bit bigger than the pop rivets were, so here I'm using a 5/16 drill bit to drill them out. You just need to just barely drill them out, just a hair, to get this ball joint in there. As you see, I dropped it in. I'm putting the bolts in, and then we're going to put these lock washers and nuts on. And we're going to tighten these down, and then we're going to use the torque wrench on them and put 25 foot-pounds on each one of these bolts. You see, I kind of cheated and put this I put a deep socket into my vise and just laid the bolt head in there, and then tightened the nut down on the bottom with the torque wrench to get that 25 foot-pounds. This made it way easier than trying to hold a wrench on there and turning that torque wrench. And I'm just putting the grease fitting in, and I'm going to put that nut and cotter pin in there just to hold in place until I'm ready to use it. And now we're going to do the lower control arm. Sorry, for some reason something got on the lens and it's a little foggy there. It's basically the same process, but you see where that double, where the two bolts go in on the one side, there's a double hole on one side and a single on the other. We want that double hole being on the same side as where that stabilizer bar would go. You see that piece up in the front, so that those two are always on the same side, no matter if left or right. And you see I have that wooden piece in there that's helping support that so it doesn't bend. And I'm doing the same thing as I did with the upper control arm, trying to press this in. The one thing I forgot when I did this, I usually put two nuts that are the exact size that squeeze in there in between those double pieces. That way you don't bend those as well, because that can happen. I forgot to put it in. I already did this once. The first one I did, the control arm was already bent. There was a bent steering arm, and I noticed that when I was taking it off, but the control arm was actually a little bit bent too, and I didn't notice until I started putting it together. And then I did use the nuts on that, but I forgot to put them on when I did it the second time. But everything went together fine, so it didn't matter. And once again, we got to drill some holes out for that ball joint. And really, it's the slightest. You don't want to go any more than you have to. It's just a little bit to get it out so those nuts will fit through there. Doesn't take much at all. And this ball joint has a nut on the top as well. So I'm putting the nuts in, and those are both 25 foot-pounds again. But the top nut, it's on top of the ball bearing, or the ball joint. That nut is supposed to be torqued between 42 and 47 foot-pounds. I don't know who came up with that, 42 to 47. I've never. So I just set mine at 45 and torqued it down. See, here's the nut I was talking about. Those other two were 25 foot-pounds. This one's 42 to 47. So as I said, I just put mine at 45 and kept going until I got it. And our lower control arm is ready to go. So you can see the first control arm had a really dull black paint. I have this Pour 15 paint that I had got that I was using on the frame. I decided to use it on this, and it looks way better, so I went and repainted all the other ones too. But I put that grease fitting in, and I'm just setting that nut and cotter pin there so I don't lose it. Okay, now we're going to start taking the bearings out. As you can see with the bearings, I have this seal puller tool that you can pick up like at Harbor Freight or anywhere for like about $8. It's a great tool to have. You'll use it on your rebuilding your calipers too. But as you can see, there's the lip of the race, and I'm taking the race out because the kit that I have was a complete kit that came with the dust shields and the bearings, the races, and even new studs, which we'll get into in a minute. But you just got to keep working that edge until you can get that out. As you see, I just laid it on top of my vise and just kept working the edge of that out. You just got to make sure you don't hit anywhere but on the race itself. And it's kind of tedious. You just got to keep tapping it until you get it knocked out. And now, as I said, in this kit I bought, comes with studs, and this kit is also available at c3stingray.com. But right now I'm pushing the studs out and putting the new ones in because I have them. And as you can see, those two arrows there are pointing to two deep impact sockets that I have. I put to hold this up in the air, and then I'm knocking these studs out. It's really an easy way to do it. Once again, using this press, I'm using the heck out of this press on these videos. But it's an easy way to knock the studs out. I mean, you could beat them out with a hammer. That's what most people do, I guess. Put them on a vise and beat them out with a hammer, but this way is way easier. And here's the new studs from that kit. I'm just going to set each one in. There's like little splines. You can kind of feel it kind of drop into place, and I'm just setting them all in. Then I'm going back to that vise and using those two deep impact sockets again. That holds it straight, a lot straighter than this press, which is wobbling all over the place. And then I just use the press and push it down. And we're going to go through this whole thing here and push them all down. And I'm dropping stuff all over the place, but I don't know, I think this is way easier than taking a hammer and just beating the heck out of it until you get it knocked in. I guess you could rig up a vise to do the same thing. It would be kind of hard. This is pretty easy. Alright, now we're to the races. Off to the races. These races and bearings in now. I spray it with a little silicone spray just to make it a little slick. As you see here, we have this race bearing race and installing kit. I think I got that at Harbor Freight too, but these fit right inside the races, and then you just hammer them in. But it hammers them in nice and even. Basically set it up and start hammering away. This wasn't pretty easy, really. So that's kind of a nice tool to have. But the second one, I could not find. None of these would fit in right. See, that didn't fit in flat against the top of that, and if I would hit that, it would screw it up. The next one was too big, the other one was too little. So I'm back to the press again. I just flipped that one over that should fit, but it won't fit. But if I flip it over, it does line up perfectly on the edges. So I did that. I flipped it upside down, put it on the press, and pressed it in. Which worked pretty good. Not sure why I couldn't find one that would fit in that particular race, but it worked out anyway. Next, we got to pack these bearings. Now, packing the bearings, you can get a tool also for that, where you put it in, you just pack it. I've had one before. They never seem to work very well. At least the ones I've had just never worked well. So I'm just packing in with my fingers. And this is like a long, tedious process because you got to really push it in there and make sure it gets in. I've got this sped up extremely fast here just so we can get through it, but you got to just keep pushing that grease in there until you feel it go all the way in. Once you think you have it good, I'm slapping a little grease on the race itself, and then I'm just going to set it in. And now we have this seal that we got to press in. Now this is something you want to get in straight to. I mean, once again, you could take a hammer and just keep tapping your way around till you knock it in, but I'm going back to the press again, and I'm taking one of those tools, I found one that was perfectly round with it, and I'm just going to push it in. Which seems to be way easier for me. I know if you don't have a press, you'll find ways around these. I mean, you don't need a press to do all the stuff I'm doing. I just find it way easier. Now we're packing the other side, the other bearing. This one is the one that'll be held in with the nut at the end of the spindle and that little washer. So once again, I've sped this up. I'm just packing these in. You see that other package laying there? Those are actual rivets to put the rotor back on, which I will not be using because I will never rivet that back on again. But there, that's packed. Put it in. There's the washer that sits, with that little indent that sits in there a certain way. Also have a new cap in this kit. And we also have a new nut along with a new cotter pin. Now we're going to reassemble this spindle hub assembly, and we got a new dust shield with that kit, and we'll put these bolts in to kind of hold that in place. Obviously the two holes in the bottom, the one at the top. You flip that over, and this piece here goes to the steering, and it goes away from where that cutout where the caliper bracket's going to be. It always goes away from that, down and away from it, so you know which direction it goes. Now this is where the caliper will mount. The one piece goes on the bottom and the bigger hole goes to the top, but it slides in between the dust shield and that knuckle. So really it kind of, when you get it apart, it looks like how in the heck does this go together, but it's pretty simple. And I'm tightening these up somewhat, but I'm not torquing them down now because it would be way easier to torque when it's on the car than it would be, because they're like 75 foot-pounds, and I don't want to try to hold this and do it when I put it on the car, it'll be way easier. Before I can start putting stuff on the car, I didn't take these steering arms off last time, and I should have. There's like a cotter pin and a nut, and then I'm going to go fork them off because these are all being replaced with brand new as well. It's all in that kit. So I forgot to take these off, and I need to take them off. And plus I was wanting to clean up and paint this area some before I put everything back on. Here I'm taking out that radiator support that was all rusted really bad. I have another one that's in really good shape, and so I'm going to be putting it in to replace this. So I need to get that out of the way, and then I'm going to start cleaning this frame up some so I can paint it. Look at this paint that's like 415. It's like a really good paint that is great rust preventive paint. I'm just using a wire brush here right now, just wire brushing this off, and I'm going to air blow it. Take the air and blow everything out. With that pour 15, you're actually supposed to use some sort of cleaning solution or something that you're supposed to put on before you paint. And this paint is super expensive. It's like this paint I'm using $65 a quart. And I don't remember how much it was for these other two chemicals you're supposed to use before you do it, before you paint. Anyway, here I'm using a steamer I have. I was trying to clean some of this plastic up. It really didn't do that good of a job. But I was just trying to clean other areas out. Anyway, back to this pour 15. As you can see, it looks really good. And it's really easy to apply, but I guess it's up to you. It's controversial whether or not you need to use that cleaner stuff and crap before you paint it. To me, it's just an added expense, and this stuff's already way too expensive. And I painted a 78 Corvette that I had with this stuff, and I got rid of it 10 years later, and the paint looks zero difference, and I did not use anything to clean it with other than a wire brush. So I guess that's up to you. Alright, we're putting the two new bolts in for this upper control arm. I'm going to slide this on. And now putting the nuts on. And I'm tightening it up somewhat, but I'm leaving a gap because now we're going to put those shims in. If you remember last time, we had to make sure you knew where the shims came from. So I had bagged all the shims up, which ones came from which spot. So now I'm taking them out of those bags and putting them back where they came from originally. And I'm just kind of snugging this up to hold them in place until I get everything in. And then we're going to torque these down. These are 50 foot-pounds. You can see I use a couple different torque wrenches. I have this bigger split beam torque wrench. It only goes down to like 40 foot-pounds, I think, as low as it'll go. So I can't use it on everything. So I kind of swap between this one and the digital one I have. Now we're putting in that lower control arm. There's that piece that sits up on top, and the two bolts go into. And then, for whatever reason, I'm kind of cut it out here. You can barely see the other bolt. I slipped the bolt in from the top down. Now I'm putting the nut on there. It's the one bigger bolt, and then these two go into that little piece we just put on top. Now these two smaller bolts, the front bolts, are 70 foot-pounds, and that one big one in the back is 90 foot-pounds when you're torquing these down. And now I'm torquing these down. As I said, 70, those are 70. And the other one was 90. Now we're going to be moving into the spring in a second, but I have another video up that shows a more in-depth look of putting the coil spring in. But I kind of go the same thing. As you can see, I went and bought new springs. I got them on eBay for $50. And as you can see how much shorter they are than the originals. I had to double check to make sure these were the right springs, and they are. And once again, I rented this compression tool from O'Reilly's, which I think I may have bought it because I've had it too long now. I might not get my money back if I go to take it back. But you take the rod from that and slip it down where your shock would go, and then put the other piece on there. And as you see, the piece is already on there. I screwed that piece on, then you push the spring up inside of there, and I have the floor jack underneath there that I'm putting up to kind of hold things in place, and then I'm getting that spring compressor connected to the spring. You kind of see at the top there, I'm using a wrench and tightening that as I go until I get it snugged up there where I can actually put something. Now I'm going up top with the socket wrench and working it, and I keep raising the floor jack as I'm going. Now that's the part where I go underneath and I put a strap on it and start a ratchet strap this thing over. I found this is the easiest way to get this thing in. And some people like to kick it, some people like to use pry bars, but this is so much easier. And like I said, I have another video up that's more detailed on this, so if you want to check that out, you can go look at my video list and find the coil spring video. Now we're putting on this whole assembly. I got one down on the bottom, but I'm still not able to reach the top all the way, so that's what I keep going back and compressing that spring even more. If the engine and everything was in this, I don't even know if I'd need that compressor. I think I could do it all with the floor jack, but since the engine is out, I can't do it. That spring being so much shorter than the other one, I think I could have easily done it with just the weight of the engine in there holding it down. But the way it is here, as you can see when I loosen this compressor, how the whole car rises up, and actually went off the floor jack there for a minute. Alright, now we're going to torque these down. The thing about torquing these down, there's a hole where you got to put that cotter pin, and you can't back it up. Once you torque it down, you can't back up. So the lower ball joint's torqued at 80 foot-pounds. So once you hit that 80 foot-pounds, you got to line up that hole, so you might have to keep moving it forward until you hit that hole. I think the rule is you're not supposed to go over 1/16 of an inch, but basically you just got to move it till you hit that hole. And you really shouldn't have to move it any more than that anyway. That top ball joint was 50 foot-pounds, and now I'm torquing down this assembly that I said I didn't want to do when it was on the bench, and this is 75 foot-pounds. It would have been difficult to hold. And once you get that torqued down, there's two little metal pieces you bend over to hold that nut into place, or bolt into place, I mean. Now we're putting the bearings and everything on here over the spindle, and you're supposed to put the nut on, push it down all the way and make sure it's on there, and then take your torque wrench and just go down to 12 foot-pounds is all, and that's just to seat the bearings. And then you can back it off, and then really you just got to play to feel what is right adjusting this. And once you have it, you just put that on and then put your new cap on, and that is all together. Now we got this idler arm. This is brand new. It came in the kit, whole rebuild kit, and that torques down to 30 foot-pounds to that frame. Pushing the steering on here. steering linkage, and this is 35 foot-pounds on this, and you'll have a cotter pin that you have to put in. And once again, you shouldn't back it off once you get it up there. Just go until you can line that hole up. It's a good idea to look at where the hole is before you start, and it makes it way easier. You know where you're looking. And you see, this is where that bent steering arm was. And I gotta take these apart and put the new ones together and put those on. And I couldn't get that off. I didn't really need to take it apart. I should have just forgot about it, but I was wanting to try to put it exactly the way it was when it came off, because it helps when you're having to align the car later. If you have it in a spot that supposedly was aligned to begin with, I'm sure it won't be, but it'll at least be close, you know. So I took it apart and marked where these were and then screwed them in. And the problem with this, that being bent, they weren't even. One was out way farther than the other one. So I ended up screwing them both into the same distance that the shortest one was in. And we're just going to have to work with it from there. And then I put the grease fittings in on both sides, and that's ready to go. Just have to do the other side. Now I'm putting the shock in. I've got brand new shocks for this thing. And these are 150 inch-pounds for the bolts on the bottom and 90 inch-pounds for the upper. Not sure why they use inch-pounds and foot-pounds. It just should be all foot-pounds, I would think. But as you can see, I got new drilled and slotted rotors for this thing. And here's the caliper. That piece of wood that fell out was just holding the brake shoes apart so I could slip that over. I did not show rebuilding the caliper. I did rebuild that, but I have another video. I actually have a couple videos on rebuilding calipers that you can find in my videos. You can go look that up in that coil spring thing. And the two bolts we put on there are at 95 foot-pounds. We'll get those bolts in, and then we'll torque those down to 95 foot-pounds. So, got all new rotors, new rebuilt calipers, new brake, new shocks. This thing should ride pretty nice. Okay, I'm putting that steering arm now. All these are 35 foot-pounds with the cotter pin. As you can see, I didn't put the brake lines in yet. That brake line there was, the threads were messed up on it. And something hit it or something. It did not look good. So I'm just going to get new brake lines for the front and the back and just replace them all. Because it's not worth messing with. I don't want to screw anything up, and I can tell the threads are no good on that one. The other one's probably okay, but I'm just going to get new brake lines. I'm not going to be driving anywhere for a while, obviously. And I'm torquing that down to 35 foot-pounds. And you know, your car, your year, there might be some variations, so you want to check your torque specs on your vehicle. I'm just telling you what I'm doing here. And this is what I know for a 79 Corvette, just looking at the manual. But yours may be different, so you may want to, verify that these specs are correct for your car. Now I'm putting that stabilizer bar back in. And there's 4 bolts holding that up, which you can't see, but what's weird with this too is this one's another one of those it's 126 inch-pounds for these 4 bolts holding this stabilizer bar on, which I think is kind of strange. And now we're putting the final pieces on, attaching the stabilizer bar to those lower control arms. And this also comes in that kit. And I just snug the one up on one side and then I go do the other side, because if you tighten one of them down, it kind of makes it hard to put the other one in. So I get them both in and then I tighten them down. And once again, we're at the 35 foot-pounds. And we are about done. This is the final piece. And here it is, all put back together finally. This is the third video on this. It's ridiculous. But I think it looks pretty good. And we still got a long way to go, but hey, at least one, we can check off something on that checklist.
Alto Wick museum curator was so impressed with the deals at Buff Whalen Chevrolet, he bought a new car for Chi-Chi LaBoom. A part-time aerobics teacher, she told
my entire class
about the great deal.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'm glad this is done. We can finally check something off that checklist. The front suspension is on. Well, I still need to get those brake lines fixed, but overall everything's done up here. That's nice. I didn't realize when I saw that steering arm was bent, I didn't realize that it also bent the lower control arm, so I had to go out and find another one. After I'd taken the one apart and painted it and everything, then I realized it was bent, so I had to go out and find another one because I did not have one. And then start over again by sandblasting, painting, and everything again. That's when I realized, I like this pouring paint better than that other paint, so I decided to repaint all the parts, and that kind of took a little time. But I'm glad it's done. I'm glad it's on here, and we can move on. I'm going to be dropping the car next, spinning it around, and we're going to be taking those trailing arms off next, and that's going to be a lot of fun. Trailing arms either come off super easy or the hardest thing in the world to get off, and we'll find out what this one is next episode. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do, and hit that like button and notification button. And if you need new or used C3, C4, or C5 Corvette parts, go to my website at c3stingray.com, and that is it. I will see you on the road.